I just saying, Biggie, 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 yeah. Can't you see? Sometimes your words just hypnotize me. And I just love your flashy ways. I guess that's why they're broken. You're so paid. Did you get that, Jeremiah?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Jim. This is 90s, not 80s. We can sing a song for Jim. Girls just want to have fun. I wake up in the morning light. My mother says, when you gonna live your life right? Hey, mother dear, you're not the fortunate one. And girls, they want to have fun. Oh, girls, they want to have fun.
That's why they really want
some fun. When the working day is done, oh, girls, they want to have fun.
Join us today on the Final Hour podcast.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
That's great.
Lonaiah's musical debut.
They're going to write in.
I hope I get a record deal.
We interrupt your program to issue a severe warning for an impending emergency making its way to your area. We urge you to be watchmen of the times and to be prepared with the essential knowledge and supplies for the wake of the final hour.
Welcome to the Final Hour podcast, coming to you from the original Living Word Christian Center out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. I hoped you liked our opening.
Today is May 4th.
For the opening.
May the 4th be with you.
And also with you. Where the Force meets Christ.
I think both of them, if you look at the opening for the opening, have had too much coffee.
I just started.
You know what? The sun's out, Minnesotans.
Sun's out, guns
Let's
out.
Hear it for sunshine.
Hallelujah.
Can I ask you a question?
Can I get an amen?
And that's John Gapp. And that's Jim. When you...
and Jeremiah is producing.
And Jeremiah.
What's up, Jer?
But
Jerry,
question, guys, for you. When it's nice and sunny out,
yes.
Are you the kind of guys who roll your window down and turn your music up? And let the wind blow through your hair?
Absolutely.
Sing at the top of your lungs?
Yes.
Jim? Yes, unless it's Cindy Lauper.
Cindy, I'm sorry that he offended you.
No, but
Cindy,
Lonaiah, if it's cloudy out, is not as in a good a mood as if it's sunny.
So happy today because it's sunshine.
It's really nice.
It's a sunshine day.
Yeah. I was not wearing this sweatshirt earlier, but my 11-month-old snotted me all over, so I had to...
You wore the Final Hour merch? Are you going to talk about the merch?
Some merch.
Well, listen, we apologize that we have all these cool designs. This merchandise is really cool and
super cool.
We've been through so much with that, trying to get that rolling. At one point, they were telling me, because this is a ministry here, so you had tax issues, that I had to start a Jim Hammond Ministries. And so at that point, I was just like, I'm not starting a Jim Hammond Ministries just to sell merchandise. And but we did find a way to do it, and that is coming. They're telling us early June. That means mid-June in my book. But it is coming. The merchandise is coming. We'll explain when it comes.
Does that mean... I'll have some tank tops and some crop tops I can wear for the summer.
Yes, John. You can also wear that on the Israel tour when we go on our hikes. Can't wait.
For John in a crop top.
Sorry, my wife.
My wife, Liz.
So
when you see us all in Final Hour merch, you'll know. That'll be the Easter egg that our merch is dropped.
We'll be like...
For those of you that have stayed with us this week, thank you for staying with us. Listen, one more thing. We have Jonathan Kahn coming to Living Word Christian Center in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota on Wednesday night, June 7th at 7 p.m.
I'm so excited.
I have the honor of hosting that service. Jonathan Kahn, June 7th, 7 p.m., Living Word Christian Center, Brooklyn Park, Wednesday night. And so we've been talking about Israel. What's going on the Israeli-Syrian border, but we have some other things we want to get into today. but I'm just going to take 5 minutes to wrap up Israel because I never got a chance to talk about right next to Syria, you have Lebanon and what's going on. We talked about a ring of fire that Iran is developing around Israel. Lebanon is in a country that is in awful shape. Their government is barely functional. It's kind of a puppet government in a lot of ways. It's a collapsing economy. They've also dealt with multiple civil wars like Syria, and Iran has exploited this. Going back to the 1980s, Iran uses a proxy army in southern Lebanon called Hezbollah. Very highly trained army. It is an army. They have 50,000 Hezbollah troops in Lebanon. These are Shiite Muslims, just like the Iranians. Extremely well-trained troops. The Israelis believe there's at least 7,000 of these troops right on the border of Israel. And so they're always having to watch them. And we were on that border, and, I was showing Lonaiah pictures of, we were taking them as we were getting off the bus, they were taking pictures of us. Hezbollah, Hezbollah in Lebanon.
Was that the tunnel picture?
Yes.
Okay.
When we were going to visit a tunnel, Hezbollah had spent 10 years trying to tunnel into Israel using incredible equipment. I'm not talking a little tunnel. I'm talking tunnels that you can bring equipment through, and I think I've talked about that. But it was a sobering thing. It was surreal to see that for 10 years they dug and they dug and they dug in 5 locations. And what's the point? Imagine that if someone's trying to kill you, also they can kill you. Hezbollah in Lebanon do not have tanks. They do not have airplanes. But what makes up for that? Hezbollah in Lebanon is considered one of the top 10 artilleries in the world. If you just took an army and you took their artillery and that alone, they are top 10. And all of this is pointed at Israel or ready to be pointed at Israel, breaking it down. Hezbollah has 160,000 mid-range, short-range, and long-range missiles, and all in their Lebanese arsenal. This is Lebanon alone. They also have the same thing. The Israelis spend a lot of time targeting in Syria. They have accurate missile systems, and all Hezbollah mid-range missiles, just the mid-range ones, can hit just about anywhere in Israel. Hezbollah has 65,000 short-range missiles that have a range of 28 miles. They have 5,000 long-range missiles that can reach 124 miles.
Which is over half the length of Israel.
Yes, they also have 2,000 UAV attack drones.
Jeez.
And this is in the hundreds of precision-guided missiles, hundreds of surface-to-sea missiles to hit Israeli ships. And if you add up the following, hundreds of many submarines, torpedoes, cruise missiles, air defense systems, all add up to the hundreds. They have, just alone, 145,000 mortar rounds. And mortars have come a long way than what you see in World War II, Vietnam. Can I give you the exact range of different mortar rounds? I just went and asked the guy giving us the briefing at a place called the Alma Center. You can look at that up, ALMA Center. They'll email you the latest things going on. They are there to watch Hezbollah exclusively right on the border of Lebanon. They monitor Hezbollah all day, every day. And this is where we got our briefing, a place called the Alma Center. A top-of-the-line mortar round has a maximum range of 40 miles. People will argue with me on that, but listen to this. At least the type of mortars Hezbollah is carrying, which are the latest state-of-the-art mortar rounds that have something called a rocket booster attached to each round. Usually a mortar round, your average mortar round, travels somewhere between 3 and 7 miles tops. But I'm just telling you what I was told, because I asked the guy who is military giving the briefing, and he said 40 miles. Their mortars can travel 40 miles. They have 145,000 of those mortar rounds. So this is an amazing artillery added up, 160 short, mid, and long-range straight-up missiles is holding on the border of Hezbollah is holding on the border of Lebanon.
160,000.
Yes.
Okay. You said 160, so it's just
160,000.
That's a
Thank
lot.
you.
Yes.
Thank you, Cindy. This is what is happening.
I feel like I should have a high pony
But this is what
Cocked off to the
and
side.
some pink eye makeup.
This is what's
That'd be
going
fun.
on the Lebanese border. And so when I sat in the briefing on Tuesday, March 14th, and we were getting the tours through these unbelievable tunnels that they were explaining that could only be dug with equipment that's worth multi-millions of dollars to be able to do it silently, the way they were doing it.
So I wonder when Israel found out that they were digging those tunnels.
It's not completely silent. It's some of the residents, the Israeli residents on the border, started complaining like, we're hearing something.
Yeah.
Oh.
We're hearing something. And that's what the Israelis got the Israelis, they were 10 feet or 10 feet, 10 meters is what they said from breaking ground.
Wow.
But I just want to switch gears. Remember the shooting at the Christian school in Nashville a few weeks ago?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Do you think we do the news before this?
No, but
No,
no,
okay.
mine will tie into it.
All right.
That's good.
You had a transgender person kill 6 people, 3 children, 3 adults.
Yep.
And you know, I'm just pointing out, we did not see one single article in the mainstream media that this was a Christian school.
Yeah.
Like, I just found this out when Lonaiah was researching this. I did see some of the mainstream media kind of putting the idea out there that it was the fault of Christians
Right.
that the shooting even took place. But what a lot of people don't know is that there's a video game that came out that was developed. This video game is a game where players can kill anti-transgender villains. All right, including you can kill a priest on this video game. Wow. This is a game where your character, if you're playing the game, is running around killing people that do not agree with surgically altering your body. All right, and so the Bible talks about spirits. Often with James Tan, Dr. James Tan, when he's in here, we go that direction. The Hebrew language, or the Old Testament in the Hebrew language, these spirits are called Shadim. Shadim in the Hebrew language means destroyer. Shadim are demons. That's what they are. When a demon possesses a person, they take that person, really you could say they take that person's regular human nature. They remove their personality and take it over, is what they do. They may not remove it, but they take it over.
Yeah.
These demons that possess people are allowed to possess people. Start to destroy the person's mind, will, emotion, their souls. And really you could say their number one goal is to use that person's body that they've possessed to harm that person and harm others.
Harm others, yeah.
And so this, this is what we're talking about. The Bible, just reading an example we all know, Mark 5, verses 2 through 6. If you go on the Israel trip with us, you'll be able to spot this place, or the location of this, while we're on the Galilee. They rode across the Galilee. Jesus and the disciples got off the boat. As soon as he got out of the boat, verse 2, they were met out of the tombs, a man under the power of an unclean spirit. This man continually lived among the tombs, which is shallow caves, or another word, hallows, and no one could subdue him. So that means they had tried, even with a chain. He had been bound often with shackles for the feet, handcuffs made of light chains for his hands that he wrenched apart, right? The shackles he rubbed together, ground together, broke in pieces. No one had strength enough to restrain. That means They tried to restrain him for a reason, right? And night and day among the tombs and the mountains, he was always shrieking and screaming and beating and bruising and cutting himself with stones. And when he saw Jesus from a distance, and so this, he ran and fell on his knees before him. And this is what I think you need to expect this, because Jesus said, the works that I do shall you do also greater works than those. Yeah. Well, this guy spotted him, this demon-possessed guy, from a distance and run. He's on his knees in front of him. Notice, why would they have bound him often? It says with shackles on his feet, handcuffs described as light chains, because he was a threat. Yeah. Not just to himself. And you'll see that as we read the rendition of this that Matthew gives, that he was a threat to everyone. People had to avoid him. And so it wasn't just because he was hurting himself. You often see this in possessed people where these demons cause them to harm themselves and many times others. The Bible says the shadim in Hebrew, translated to Greek, daimonia, is where you get the word demon. The Bible talks about how there are demons, and we read these verses before in Acts, that are behind the gods of the ancient world. Yep. You know, Paul's in Athens. Right. He's pointing at all their gods. He's looking at all of them. And you can look in the Greek. He's calling them demons. And when Christianity came into the scripture, came into the picture and got rolling, you could slowly but surely over time in Western civilization that followed, the gospel pushed out a lot of these demons and their control over nations. And you can see how these different demons, we've talked about these guys, the demons behind Baal, a biblical gods, Ashtaroth, that the Israelites were constantly, being enticed into, is what the Bible calls her. Ashtaroth is a her, later called Ishtar, Roman civilization, Venus, same demon, because of her characteristics. And Molech, this other god, this is the sacrifice. He wants children. He wants our children, going all the way back to the biblical days. We did multiple episodes giving credit to Jonathan Cahn's book, Return of the Gods.
I heard him talking about Ashtaroth yesterday.
Yes. Yeah. And we got permission to base our podcast on this specific book. We did a couple of them. And we talked about this a little bit, but in so many words, not just covering individual human beings. Jesus gives a warning also to cultures and nations turning away from God. And you exercise these spirits. If you push God out and you turn away from our God, Jehovah, these spirits will come back more powerful with other spirits. And we went into detail. Remember these episodes, how America cast God out, starting with taking him out of the schools. Then what a coincidence. And this is what Baal does. When Baal gets control, he gets God out of everything. That's his first thing. If you look in the Bible, and we explained how quickly following in America after God out of the schools came the sexual revolution, entering Ashtaroth, shows up with a sexual revolution. Same decade. And then you get Molech. He's repackaged out of the Old Testament in abortion, as we sacrifice our children, unborn babies, and it's turning quickly into babies that have already been born. If you look at all the legislation trying to be passed in different states, quoting Jonathan Cahn, paraphrasing him from his book, Return of the Gods, you could say that the Western world, with the coming of the gospel, exorcised these demons, pushed them out. The gospel pushed them out. And he says, but if and when they return, wouldn't they return with a vengeance for the ones that were responsible for casting them out of Western civilization, i.e. Christians? And that is what this was in Nashville. And it's just the beginning, all right? It's just the beginning. At the shooting and the killing of 6 people at the Christian school in Nashville, and I'm not saying this to, I'm saying this, you have to take your authority.
Yes.
and we've talked, and I'll go into more about that, but we see more and more of these returning spirits. They're just high-powered demons that you can find in the Old Testament, repackaged.
Yep.
We see them turning their vengeance on the Christian church. And you could say Jonathan Cahn literally prophesied in his book that came out in September 2022 about these attacks that are going to come against Christians, and they're coming from, you have to look at the spiritual war behind it. They're coming from these gods, these demons. We are stressing, use your authority. You've been given what the Bible calls a seat of authority, a heavenly ministry. And these things, according to the Bible, we are supposed to have victory over. These things are not supposed to touch you.
Yeah.
You have that to actively take your spiritual authority every day. We discussed this in detail of how to do it, why to do it.
Right.
Why the Bible says to do it, where the Bible says to do it. And if you want to look at that, episode 27, breaking the power of the devil with your authority. Episode 28, spiritual wickedness in high places. Episode 29, Satan's political agenda, the authority of the believer 3. And episode 30, time to fight back, taking your authority. We go into detail.
Yep.
Of how to do this, why to do this. This has to be a daily thing. Is it a half-hour thing? No. Can you do it in 5 minutes? Yes. Yes. I'm more apt to take 10, 12 minutes a day, but I'm just reminding you that the goddess in the Bible, Ashtaroth, other civilizations, she was later named Ishtar. Multiple names, multiple cultures, but always same agenda.
Yep.
Archaeology dug up what was thought to be a worship song, known to be a worship song, ascribed to Ishtar, saying, you are the god that changes a woman to a man and a man to a woman. Yeah. She is the demonic entity that America has invited in that is behind all this. The ancient inscription also reveals she's a god of parades.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Very interesting.
It describes her as the goddess of the bending of gender. You can find all this in Jonathan Cahn's book. Most cultures, she loved to show up once she got her grip.
This is crazy.
For the month of June.
Pride Month.
She would literally claim the month of June for herself. We're talking thousands of years ago. Everything would be dedicated to her. Yes. And this is nothing new here. This is thousands of years ago. She had a priesthood that was called the Kalu. These were men who dressed up and acted like women. Even back in ancient civilization, some of them were surgically altered, having their organs cut off. This is a known fact. You can see this on these ancient inscriptions, ancient writings. Were you going to say something?
It's okay. I don't remember what I was going to say anymore.
I'm sure they didn't have the medical technology. Who knows, though? We don't know what they had. And now to turn men into women.
You think they had medical technology? I mean, I go back to, we used to do medical outreaches in Indonesia. And I remember this one guy, they would have like village doctors who would perform surgeries on people. And some of the people who came in who had the medical doctor do the surgery on them, they were like, they looked miserable and it didn't look healthy. I don't know how this guy was still alive. Like everything was like outside of his body.
All you got to do is go on a missions trip to a village like that, and you will be thankful for what you have.
Seriously, it was.
You will realize you don't need counseling. You just need to go on a missions trip.
You do, for real.
Because it makes you grateful and thankful, right? And because half the world lives like Lonaiah just explained.
Yeah, it was crazy. But I'll say the book, I like what that Jonathan Cahn is like bringing this out. And because I didn't understand that all this was old gods that are just being repackaged. Because you look at it and it just looks so new to you.
Well, yeah, but for American culture, I mean, this is, you go back 60 years and you don't see this, but then all of a sudden,
it feels like,
I was thinking, you know, this just reminds me, just what you were saying about your prayer is, whenever you're in conflict with someone, to be able to look at the spiritual force behind them, and that's where the struggle is. I know the Bible tells us to do that, but when you are directly in conflict with someone, you have to be able to oppose them with your words and to fight for what's right, but then not be able, not be focusing all of your energy on them, but
Yes.
being able to bind the spirit that's behind them.
And ultimately, they get a free, they got to make their decision. But
Right.
you can push things back.
Yeah.
But you have power over your family.
Right.
And I'm just saying, listen, you can own in the spirit the school that you drop your kids.
Yes,
Yes.
I pray over my
You
kids'
can own that
every
school.
day.
That's what I would, when I stay in a hotel somewhere, I say, this is in the spirit, this is mine. I draw a bloodline around it, right? In the spirit. And I just say, this is mine.
Yeah.
Ain't
Establish your
nothing
territory.
happening in this hotel while I'm in here.
Yep.
And people don't understand that. You can own your city block, right? But do you ever do that?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
In the Return of the Gods, Jonathan Cahn has inscriptions in the book, copies that were found that have these men that I talked about, the Kalu, in front of the goddess with scalpels in their hands, celebrating transition. And it's not about the people. It's about the spirit, as John was saying, behind this. Well, you have to listen. Jesus warned these spirits, if they come back, and Jonathan Cahn saying this is into Western civilization, they come back with more power.
Yeah.
They come back with more spirits, more weapons underneath them to use. And what we have in America, plain and simple, is she is back. She is targeting the children. You have children getting sex changes that are entirely too young to make that decision or even understand the decisions that are being made.
Yeah.
You have the American public paying for it in taxes. Let's just think about it in normal terms. What would possess someone to remove the sexual organs of a child?
Yeah.
I don't know.
A spirit. It has
It
to be.
has to be, because it doesn't make sense otherwise.
It doesn't.
The spirit of Ishtar, or spirit of Ashtaroth, she's also called Aphrodite with the Greeks. Same characteristics.
Right.
Same thing. Same Venus with the Romans. Inanna and Astarte also were names for her. She has shown up in the Canaanite civilizations, the Syrian civilization, the Assyrian civilization, the Babylonian civilizations, and the whole transgender thing is just part of her deal. Just part.
Right.
So much more. A lot of what involves her, she's like a tavern type goddess. She's a goddess of war. She's in charge of a lot more things than just what we're talking about. But you see her modifying her appearance in each culture, with a different name,
Right.
but always the same stuff that we're seeing right now. And it would not surprise me if in the book of Revelation, if she is the whore of Babylon.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we've talked about all this in detail. If she's the spirit behind the whore of Babylon, because it is a definite spiritual entity it describes. And we've talked about all this in detail in episodes 41 and 42 of the Final Hour podcast, where we went through Jonathan Cahn's book, The Return of the Gods. Obviously, the trans woman shooter that killed 6 people, 3 of them kids in the Christian school in Nashville,
So sad.
was one of the confused people of this generation that have been deceived by this very spirit. And notice in Matthew 8:28, when he arrived at the other side, this is Matthew's. They go across the Galilee,
Right.
into the area of Gadarenes. 2 men, Matthew says it was 2 men, under the control of demons, went to meet him, coming out of the tombs, hallows, shallow caves, so fierce and savage that no one was able to pass that way. So no one went that way because they were afraid of these guys
Right.
and what they would do to them physically. Interestingly enough, Matthew said it was 2 men. We have these guys coming out of the tombs. Those are caves. Another word for tombs is hallows, tombs that are made out of shallow caves. These guys in the Amplified are described as being so fierce and savage that no one got near them. And so they did not only harm themselves, they harmed other people. Stressing here, another word for tomb, like these were in the style of a shallow cave is a hallow. Okay, stay with me.
Right.
You can say these demon-possessed guys, according to Matthew, dwelt in the hallows. The name of the Nashville shooter who killed those Christians that day was Audrey Hale. The name Hale means the one who dwells in the hallows.
Wow. Interesting.
Oh, but it's all a coincidence.
That's interesting.
The Bible reveals in this situation in Matthew that the demon-possessed man or two men dwelt in the hallows, which is another name for shallow caves that were used for tombs. The last name of the Nashville shooter means the one who dwells in the hallows.
Interesting.
These spirits, and there is more than just Ashtoreth or whatever name you want to give her, they're not just possessing normal everyday people.
Yeah.
You've got musicians that influence millions, just dressing up like the devil.
Sam Smith.
They're not even hiding it.
Right.
They're not even hiding it.
No,
What was the award show?
Yeah.
Oh, it was the Grammys where they said,
Grammys
let's
with-
worship together, and it was Sam Smith.
Isn't it
Dressed
let's
up-
worship
Dressed up
together.
as the devil
And a devil
He's
in
gone
hell.
crazy.
He has gone super crazy.
If you look at him when he started to where he is now, it's just
it's quite a journey.
And there's no
a
question
spirit for sure.
that these guys possess leaders of specific countries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I think a lot. We'll find
Yeah.
out in the end. It was a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, we will.
So I just let's
Well, one thing to what?
use your authority though. You have to use your authority.
Yeah.
You have to take your seat of authority in the heavenlies. Operate out of your heavenly ministry today. I try to say that. I'm coming from here.
Yeah.
And I cover everything that matters to me, as well as myself, and we show you how to do it. We spent 4 episodes showing you how to do it.
Right.
But go ahead and go.
I was listening to, I think it was Glenn Beck and Jonathan Cahn, and they were kind of talking about the book. And Jonathan Cahn made a point, which I thought was really good, but he's like, the only thing you have to fear here is like the fear of the Lord. You don't need to fear these people
Right.
or fear the spirits behind them. You just have to like fear, like your thought and your process is, what does the Lord want me to do with this? Like, how am I supposed to react? How am I supposed to biblically stand against these things? That's the
Yes.
only thing you need to fear. We don't talk about these things to like make people
make you
afraid,
afraid.
or
Right.
to bring fear. Because I guess I used to be like really fear-based. I don't now, because I know that God is in control.
Yeah.
And I go back to Psalm 2. I tell Jim all the time, like, that has saved me so many times
Yeah.
just in my thought process of like, how are we here and what's going to happen? Like, God is in control. He's going to take it all over one day. So he's just letting what?
Well, this
Go
is
ahead.
No.
yeah. But this is information, right?
Yes.
If you don't know how to pray against it. You don't know how to see what's coming.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest things about what we're doing here is to be informed, to be able to connect what the Word is saying with what is going on in our world right now. And exactly like you said, not out of fear, not out of...
We're watching. And,
Yes.
and
Right.
Jesus tells the end time church in Revelation chapter 2 and 3 multiple times, you have to watch. You have to watch, right? So you know what's coming at you, right? So you know how to exercise your authority over.
Yeah.
And so it's just simply watching and paying attention. Those guys, and I'm not, every church has their calling, right?
For sure.
And you have seeker friendly, hey, just want to get people into church, fine. Those are great. They have their reason. But you know what? If that's all you ever learn, the Bible says that you perish for a lack of knowledge. That means you can die from a lack of knowledge, all right? And ultimately, the people that are responsible for that are the people not ministering it in the pulpits.
Right.
And I'm not judging. Every church has their call.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is if you're just going and I just hope I'm okay and I love Jesus and Jesus loves me, but you don't take your authority, all right?
Right. Your lunch is going to get eaten.
It's going to get eaten. It's going to get eaten, and we see it all the time. We see it all the time, being involved with what we're involved with.
Yes.
On a daily basis. So.
Yeah. are you good?
Yeah, you want
Okay.
it ready
So
to
good.
And we have Cindy Lauper with the news.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So just going off of Jim's topic, I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but Elon Musk and Bill Maher, they
Who's a lefty? Bill Maher.
he is
Definitely.
a lefty.
He's a liberal guy for
He
sure.
is. And I'll say Elon Musk has surprisingly captivated my attention with his
Right,
conversations on certain topics like freedom of speech. And now he's saying the woke mind virus, which is basically everything Jim just talked about with the pushing of transgenderism and the ideology behind all of that and why it is to the state it's in. He's like, this is what he said in his interview with Bill Maher. He said the woke mind virus, he's warning against it. And he says he feels it is pushing the civilization to suicide.
Right.
And I totally agree with that.
Absolutely.
I don't know why, but I got an article in my inbox and it said loneliness is on the rise since the pandemic. And so I just Googled loneliness. And the last 4 days, there's probably 15 articles from USA Today, CBS News, ABC, all those people talking about loneliness and how it's pushing people towards suicide. So it's almost they're warning that a big suicide crisis is coming.
Sure.
But anyways.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and
But
there is obviously an agenda with a lot of these news outlets that are connected, whether or not it's obvious. They are connected. And, I think naturally there's obviously an isolation and some loneliness that comes through this woke agenda.
Of course.
Because everything is now ascribed, everything of your worth is ascribed to a group.
Yes.
And to a group identity.
Yeah.
Instead of having an identity of yourself.
Right.
And when it does not fulfill you, you are all of a sudden without any worth of yourself. And that's when the loneliness comes.
Yeah. And if you disagree with them, like Musk says, it's basically cancel culture.
Right.
If you don't agree with their ideology and what they're pushing and how they're wanting to mutilate children, then you're what's a minority? It's being pushed. So they're saying now 1 in every 4 high school students identifies as an LGBTQ. This is up 83% from 2020.
And I don't give a lot of credence to those studies because I think it's also part propaganda.
Yes, for sure.
I don't know. My niece and nephew go to Minnetonka and and my daughter also went to a dance at St. Paul School and Summit. And she was like, the amount of kids who came as transgenders was mind-boggling. Yeah. And we actually talked to a dad who has his kids there, and he's like, I am not a conservative by any means. I am as left as it gets. And he's like, what they're pushing in that school is almost shocking to me. And he's like, I'm a lefty. So anyways, and
this is Elon Musk and Bill Maher. This is the owner of Twitter, and Bill Maher, who has been an outspoken progressive for 3 decades, 2 decades. Yeah. And has one of the most popular shows on cable. Yeah. Right? These guys are saying that this and didn't I say, and I feel like it was a word of wisdom. I said, Lonaiah, I looked at you about 3 weeks ago, and I said, it just came out of me. I said, suicides are coming.
Yes, I know. That's one I
said, suicides are coming, and I just had that in my spirit. And this is why you cover your family.
Absolutely.
You cover your family in prayer. It's not like it's some 2-hour ordeal, 1-hour ordeal. You can do this in 5 minutes, all right, if you know what to do. And it's a prayer. It's statements spoken into the Spirit using the name of Jesus, and you're taking command of things. All right, we give all the scriptures, and people don't think it. They don't think it's true. They think they just got to put their heads in the sand and hide. And in that case, you're not going to be able to hide. It's going to reach you. And it's not just promote fear. It's just say, we're trying to say, you have to do something here.
You do.
You have to do something. Okay. And so, sorry. Go
that's
ahead,
okay.
Lonaiah.
They just said that both of these guys say they worry that this is ruining the younger generation. So basically, they are. So first of all, Elon Musk says they're suppressing free speech. You can't speak out against it if you speak out against it. I think some kid the other day, he was like 12, wore there's only 2 genders to school.
Yeah.
And he got sent home and expelled from school for saying there's only 2 genders.
Yeah.
And then they're just like the woke mind virus. It started in universities.
Yep.
That's basically where it was. And it's progressed now. Like John just said, him and his sister went to a board meeting last week.
Right.
And they're standing up against this. Elon Musk said, I don't think many parents realize how indoctrinated the children are being at schools.
Yeah.
But one other thing that I just want to mention, because what is her name? Sadie Robertson. She has a podcast, and my daughter listens to her all the time. And
Duck Dynasty.
Yes. So she was in my feed, and she was just talking about like the pressure of social media and kids and everything that's out there.
Yep.
And she made this comment because she has younger kids. I think she's pregnant with her 2nd kid. But people always ask her, are you afraid to raise your kids right now? And she's like, I'm not afraid because I know what I'm putting in my children.
Right.
And she's like, I see what teenagers are asking their phones, like Siri or their AI bots or whatever. And she's like, they're not asking their parents these questions. They're asking electronics these questions. So she's like, if you want to stop your kids from being indoctrinated with anything, have a relationship with them.
Absolutely.
So they feel like they can come and ask you these questions. And I was like, I agree with that, because so many parents, I mean, I did it when my kids are younger. You give them the phone so they leave you alone. But then they get to the point where they're on social media all the time, and you're kind of like, what are you watching? What are you listening to?
Right.
And lately, or last week, I should say, I saw, I think it was ABC News or something. They said like TikTok is, they're holding TikTok responsible for like 10 teen suicides over the last month, because they said that when they started to look through the TikTok feed of their kid, their kid was like being pushed with, hey, are you depressed? Hey, are you feeling this way? Are you feeling that way? And where the kid felt like they had nothing else to live for, so they committed suicide. But they're looking at their TikTok feeds and they're like, social media is pushing kids towards suicide.
And there was a guy, I keep reading it on my BBC ticker on my 17 channels at home. You know, one of those channels where you just see the local radar,
right?
With opera music playing.
I like that one.
Yeah, it's a good one, isn't it? And it's got the world news just in one-liners. There was a cult guy that led a bunch of people to a suicide. I believe it was in Africa, like a Jim Jones. I believe this is like the next thing. We're going to see a rash of these, and so you just need to cover your family.
Yes.
You need to cover your children. You need to cover your extended family.
Yeah.
But I know it's annoying, parents, but when our kids are in their room, we don't let them shut their door and be on their phone or play video games. Like, if their door's closed, we open it, and we're like, hey, you know the rule. Like, your door has to be open. So we can hear what, not that my kids are bad. I'm just saying that's
it's
been
good
a rule
boundaries.
since they were little.
Right.
Be aware. Your kids want you to pay attention to them.
They do.
They might think you're annoying if they're scrolling on their phone and you just go sit by them.
Right.
That's how it starts. Just sit by them and don't be annoying. Just watch what they're watching. And
be involved.
You'll eventually have an open door to talk to them.
You might even enjoy them.
Yeah.
They might enjoy you even.
They might enjoy you.
I was going to say a well-trained dog is a happy dog, but that's not a good...
I mean,
is your dog well trained, Jim?
No. No.
But he does seem pretty happy.
I think of that every day. I think of that every day.
The other day I had, it's this morning. I was bringing in.
And I'm not saying kids, that's why I said it's not the appropriate comment.
It's fine.
But I was bringing in my Starbucks, and usually Rollo gets a pup cup. And he didn't get one today. And he, like, every time I held my cup up, he was, like, attacking my arm. Like, where's mine?
He's reminding her.
Where's my pup cup?
You did not bring me
your children a pup cup.
My little cup of
saying.
whipped cream.
It is a cup of whipped cream. But, okay, so we've discussed transgenderism. I don't know if you guys have heard this, but it's called Transableism. So, basically, it's your body is totally fine, but let's say you want to pretend your right arm doesn't work, so you don't use your right arm.
Yep.
And people are now getting their right arms amputated because they're identifying as transabled. And my nephew said that at Minnetonka, there's like 4 kids now who are going around in wheelchairs. I just think these kids need attention.
Right.
They're going
it's
around
a spirit.
in
It's
wheelchairs.
Ashtaroth, Venus, Aphrodite.
They're
That's her.
saying
They want to
that
be.
this body integrity identity disorder
Yeah.
is people are identifying as handicapped, and they're actually, they're getting their limbs cut off. I mean,
It's the worst version of a transformer.
Well, how are they
really-
identifying pedophiles again?
Child attracted.
Minor attracted adults?
yes.
Oh.
So now we have this.
We don't want the pedophiles to feel bad.
No.
Yeah. But
But
it
can
is-
you
it
imagine
is
willingly
insanity.
getting a working organ? I mean, I guess
Right.
it's the same thing as transgenderism. It's no different. It's just a different part of your
it's just
body,
not
but
a
it's
sexual
Losing
organ.
it.
But
Yeah.
these people are cutting off parts of their body to identify as transabled.
And if the prescribed treatment is not to treat that psychiatric issue,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Instead of just giving into it, it is such a disservice to those kids.
Well, how confusing.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, have you ever like had a paper cut on your thumb and you like can't do something with just your thumb from just a paper cut? So think if you just cut off your hand because you wanted to identify as, I don't know.
Why?
I don't know.
It's got to be attention.
It has to be attention.
Well, and how much are they going to regret that in the future?
Of course.
Right.
I mean,
Again.
I have watched plenty of interviews with people who are disabled and they talk about how hard life is. I don't know.
My daughter used to, like when she was 5, 6, 7, she would pretend she had a broken arm.
Yeah.
Or she'd pretend she had
Yeah.
and you know, obviously it was fun, or she was like, you know,
But
wanted a little attention.
yeah,
But obviously when she wanted to go play, you know, that
her arm was unbroken.
Right. Absolutely.
I know. It's crazy.
But
Okay.
you don't go ahead and say, "Oh, should we go ahead and amputate that for you?"
I know. Can you imagine taking your
No.
5-year-old to the doctor to get their leg cut off because they want a wheelchair? It's just crazy. Okay. So I think I told John this yesterday. This was breaking news yesterday. So Russia allegedly tried to assassinate Putin. Yeah,
Russia
yesterday.
did, or
I'm sorry. Ukraine.
Ukraine.
This is
Ukraine.
not. This is obviously this is all over the network.
news
It is
now.
It
Right.
is.
But the Kremlin said because of this attack, they are now going full force and they will use whatever measures they need to go after the Ukrainian people who tried to do this. So apparently it was like I don't know if you saw, but there's like smoke coming up.
It didn't even
from-
look real.
It didn't even look real. I just questioned the
And who
whole
are the
situation.
2 guys climbing up
Right.
on top of the roof at the time of the explosion? What are they doing
know.
up there?
But isn't Putin not even there? Like he's going to be at the castle anyways?
the Kremlin?
The
Or
Kremlin.
whatever it is.
Right, the castle.
Well, what is it? Is it called the Kremlin?
Kremlin.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But whatever. I just war and rumors
Well,
of wars is all I can say to that one.
Like the entire Ukraine war just continues to look more and more like a bad TV drama that
It did, but-
it is all propaganda.
Did you see that before?
I'm sure there are people that have died, and there's something going
Yes, of
on
course.
there. But it
There's
more
something.
and more looks more like a propaganda war than it does something that's actually going on.
Well, we know the money isn't all going
Right.
to the Ukrainian military. We
But
do
did you
know
see
and
that-
We've talked about that in prior
That
episodes.
This
Go
is
ahead.
going off of Murdoch, the
Yeah.
owner of Fox.
Yep.
Supposedly met with Zelensky like 3 weeks before Tucker Carlson was fired. So they think there's like some things
There's-
behind that because Tucker
there's-
was constantly exploiting
Yeah.
what was happening over there
Well-
with us sending funds to Ukraine and
as
what they're doing
well
with them.
as Tucker was speaking out against BlackRock, who has
Yes.
15% controlling
15, okay.
15% stake in Fox News.
Yes, I
So-
saw it.
You give Fox News 5 years, and they're going to be a medium CNN. Honestly, they're not owned by the original guy. It's been passed to his sons. Like John said, 15% of the company is owned by BlackRock. That is a horrible,
another
demonic, left-wing,
look it up.
progressive organization trying to change the world. And Fox News, you know, it just bugs me that it seems like everyone over 60 watches Fox News religiously. And but watch, you can see little changes in it already.
I
do like the guy who's coming in for Tucker Carlson, though. Lawrence.
We'll see.
I think
they're going to be very
right.
smart.
However,
they're going to be smart how they do it. They're not going to make it obvious.
I stopped watching anything from Fox News after the 2020 election because it looked like Fox News was just another
well, Tucker says that they are.
Okay, what's next?
Okay, so China. Remember when we said they were having illegal police stations put up?
Yeah,
it's true.
About 6
There's
in the
6.
US.
And did you know that one of them is in Minneapolis, Minnesota?
Yes, I
Why? Why would we allow the communist Chinese to set up police stations to micromanage Chinese Americans?
Jim, these are overseas Chinese service centers that are set up to help their citizens. This is what they say. To get driver's license, visas, travel visas. That's what they're saying. But that is obviously not what the CCP is doing.
Right.
I do have a CCP.
How do we know that, Lonaiah?
My covenant card partner. That's what he's
Your
called.
covenant card partner.
How do we know that? Cindy, Lonaiah.
Are you talking about the one and only?
Patcha.
Yeah.
How do we know that? Because it's all over about China and what they're saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
How do we know it's not what they're saying? How do we know that they really aren't?
Because the Biden administration, kudos to you, shut them down and said, we will not tolerate any illegal police stations and any garnering of American documents.
He did shut them down?
Yes, he shut them down.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah. This is what Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre. Yeah. She said, we will not tolerate the PRC, the People's Republic of China, government or any foreign government harassing or threatening U.S. persons.
But you can take pictures of us out of balloons.
And send it back in real time, but nothing happened with that.
Just don't,
Remember the white balloon that was floating like just crazy?
Floated for weeks over the U.S. before anyone did anything.
It flew over Union, Missouri, which is where Caden is, like little Union. Nothing happening in Union, but except meth. But okay, anyways. But remember a couple weeks ago, or I guess a while ago, we said that the what were the people trying to get past what are the group of people that meet and they're trying to get that like overall U.S. or like sovereign thing, the treaty passed where they have
you talking about the World Health Organization?
Yes, the World Health Organization.
Yes.
So they put that on pause again. This is just off subject. That's why it's not on my notes. So we need to keep praying for that because it keeps going on pause because nobody wants to do it. And there's so much pushback from people calling in to their senators and all those things, governors, that you're making a difference.
If you don't know what we're talking about, the
World Health Organization.
The left or people from the left are trying to make a treaty with the World Health Organization where if a pandemic is declared, then our government falls under complete control of the Chinese-controlled World Health Organization. And so, we're just updating. That keeps rearing its head.
It does.
Every 3 months. They're just waiting till enough people don't care.
And I love how it keeps going away.
Well, and who knows when the next time it comes up, if there's a big crisis and it just gets slid right by because everybody is looking at something else.
Yep. Which speaking of something else, this is great news. So remember how we talked about the World Economic Forum had a 2030 agenda?
WEF.
Where they're trying to push towards this goal where everybody would own nothing and be happy.
You'll own nothing and be very happy.
That's Klaus Schwab.
You like it. You love your apartment. 50 square feet. You can sleep standing up. It'll be great.
It's so funny when John does it. Okay, but these guys, you guys, because there's no one is really going along with their plan. They're calling an emergency summit in September in New York
because they haven't made progress.
No, they haven't. And King Charles and the globalists set the meeting for September to see how they can accelerate the goals of the UN agenda for 2030 and complete digitization of humanity. Digitization?
King Charles.
Digitization.
But
is he not a joke?
Yes, he's a joke.
Yes, and he's getting
Is anybody taking him seriously?
No, I mean he's just a figurehead for. But like,
right.
I was reading Jimmy Evans. I get his tipping points, which is like an extra subscription besides his thing. And people were asking if King Charles, because I think he gets crowned this weekend.
Yeah, he's not quite.
Yeah,
King
Prince Charles. If
King
he's
in
the
waiting.
Antichrist, because he's like King of the North.
No one would respect him enough.
No, and Jimmy Evans is like no, but he does have like. He's like paving the way of characteristics of an Antichrist.
Right.
But anyway, isn't it great news to know that they are not getting anywhere near their goal because so many people are saying no.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we sat here thinking, okay, that's what's going to happen by 2030, but look that's not going to happen. And you also have, I don't know what country it was, but they said 15-minute cities are a joke. And it is like basically prisons for their citizens and they're not going to take part in it. I'm going to have to find that out.
I would like.
Well, that just
I would
pushes
like to
the rapture
see,
back then, to me.
I would.
Is that okay, Jim?
Is that okay? No, that's not okay with me.
But God knows the time and the
If the
hour.
world-
No man
Right.
does. So that's your time.
I know, no.
It's like a Goonies
the
moment.
day. You can't know the day.
It was a Goonies moment.
You
It was
you
good for
can know the season,
the
Cindy.
season.
You can.
Yes. Okay.
It's
Cindy.
Lonaiah Lauper, not Cindy Lauper. It's Lonaiah
So
Lauper.
I'm just glad to know that that's not happening. The UN agenda, 2030.
Well,
I think
it's
for
only
me-
2023. We'll see.
I think
But
for
they're
me,
not even halfway towards their goal. That's why they're freaking out. They're freaking out. They're holding an emergency summit in New York in September.
I
We're
just
there in November, but for before we go to Israel tour.
that changes everything.
Talking about the times in the season, I think for me, when we're talking about that, one of the biggest things to keep watching is the fact that Israel turns 75 this year.
Yes.
Well, Jim,
It's got to be
couldn't
close. That's a generation that doesn't pass
Right.
away.
That's
a generation that does not pass
promise.
away. Jesus said before the rapture, before the end, all right, that generation will not pass away. They're 75 years old. So that
75.
Jim
brings
looked a little deflated when
Yeah,
I
I know.
said that. And then that gave him hope like, yes, guys,
But listen,
the rapture could still happen.
listen, there is a large group of scholars that believe, and some really good ones, that between the rapture and the beginning of the tribulation, there will be 10 years.
I could see that.
Okay. And
Doesn't that kind of make sense?
in one of my recent, I'd say, yes, because it gives what happens is it gives things time to get set for the Antichrist to be set up for souls,
right.
To be won.
One,
You
I think also the main the public is going to tie the rapture to the tribulation if it's too close.
listen. Let me tell you something. Let's do that. Let's bring in what I taught. Let's find that sermon in Revelation where I said this is why scholars.
Okay.
It's pretty convincing.
It was.
It's pretty convincing
It changed my view.
why they think I had never heard that, and then all of a sudden I'm studying Revelation to try to prepare
Right.
For a weekend, and I'm like, wow, and
Yeah.
and there's some scriptural references that they go by to say yes, there is going to be a span of time following the rapture before the final 7 years kicks off. We'll hit you
Interestingly-
with that next week, but we have to remember that. We have to get back to the office and make a note on that.
There
Cindy.
are
I'll remember
I don't
because we
just
don't
do
need to
this all
hear
the
Jim
time.
say, do I need to remember everything myself?
well, I mean,
Do I
maybe we
say
can
that,
talk
Lonaiah?
Yeah,
about
a
it.
lot.
How often?
Probably like 5 times a day. Just kidding. Probably like twice a week.
Day.
That's a
It was
seems like
I
a
was
habit.
exaggerating.
Is what it sounds.
It does.
We can talk
Deflecting
about it
blame.
next week. We can talk about it.
Just
We can
It was
talk
a
about
joke.
it.
Say that.
It was a joke.
You know what? I'll save it for next week. Don't worry
No,
about
John,
it.
say it. Say it.
Well, I was just going to say, interestingly, if you look at blood moons, you know how the tetrads that we talked about about 24 weeks ago or whatever.
The Shemitah cycle.
No, the blood moon cycle, the tetrads, where there's the Feast of Trumpets and the Feast of Tabernacles 2 years in a row have blood moons. They're set up in 2032 and 2033, as well as 2044 or something like that.
I don't even want to talk about going that long.
I'm just saying, if you're talking about a 10-year span between
Get Jim back to the point where he was like
between
5 minutes ago.
the
where he was
rapture-
on
Talk
cloud
about going
9.
that long.
between the rapture and
I'm
the
retiring if
tribulation.
that happens. I'm retiring.
I mean, that's okay.
You can, Jim. You can.
I don't have any retirement money, but I'm going to retire.
Well, you won't need it because
Go work at Arby's.
the World Economic Forum will be in charge of you.
You'll have nothing.
Think I could
and
become
you'll
a
be
manager
happy.
at Arby's over time?
You won't have to. You'll have
You gave
nothing
me 4
and you'll
years.
be happy, and that's
Well, no, you're saying that's 2040. That's too long.
Jim, God is in
maybe
control.
maybe you need to start supporting the World Economic Forum so that you can get to that point.
Maybe I need to put something away for retirement.
Well,
That's not because I think the rapture is coming, by the way. Is that I'm not putting it. Long
Its
story.
eggs
It's
are
a long-
so expensive.
it's all about eggs. You know, there's powdered eggs that could save you some money.
Ugh, that is trash. Sorry if you eat powdered eggs. Can you imagine eating a powdered egg, whipping that with water, and then eating that?
Yes.
We should bring them on
Have
sometime.
you been camping? That's
Yes, I have been camping.
I wouldn't bring powdered eggs, Cammy. I'd bring like marshmallows.
I bring. Oh, that's.
and hot dogs.
I
I
love
mean,
marshmallows.
you
and hot
bring
dogs.
all of those. Actually, I bring regular eggs too.
So do we. When we
do
camp.
the ones in a carton.
Well, if you buy your stuff at night and it's cold all night, you're fine.
And you
Your eggs
buy
just.
stuff at night.
Yeah, you
Does
know,
it
like you
matter
go to
if
a
you
gro-
buy it at night?
Well, yeah, I don't
The
travel
night you camp?
with a cooler.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
The night you're going to camp.
Yeah,
You're
we'll
like,
buy
let's
it.
As
run
long
down
as you
to
buy
the
it at
store.
night, it
Go
should
and get,
keep
like,
the
hot
whole
dogs
time.
You
and
set up the
stuff.
campsite and then head to the store.
Well, you
Why
have
does
to-
it matter what time you buy
I don't,
it at?
We just get it at night when I've been camping.
You guys don't
That's-
use coolers?
No,
Well,
you
no,
don't
'cause we're
have to because they
flying.
buy it at night.
And with that, we'll say buy your stuff at night, especially if you don't have a fridge.
That's right.
Who
I'm
has
sorry.
a fridge when you're camping?
No, I'm saying
Oh, a
like,
cooler.
you don't have a fridge when
No,
you're
I
camping.
don't,
So
no.
That's why
your
you
stuff
buy it at night.
Thank you for tuning into the Final Hour podcast. Please subscribe. Please subscribe. Share it and subscribe.
Yes.
Better than that.
Yeah,
share
don't be
it.
stingy. Share it.
Share it. And
Share with a
subscribe.
friend, a neighbor, a colleague.
But before you do that, take
Friendly
your
stranger.
authority. Own it. Own your house in the spirit. Own your block in the spirit.
Yep.
Own your kids' school in the spirit. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Final Hour podcast.
God bless you.
You should have done a Klaus Schwab voice.
God bless you all. Be protected.